really to the downside with investors selling this index. SMI, the Swiss SMI also under pressure, with the FTSE MIB and the Spanish market also facing heat this morning. I want to talk about the major newsmakers in this part of the world. AB InBev. We tracked those numbers when when the numbers came out, they crossed the wires, and really not a bad set. They've reaffirmed their guidance for the year after strong performance in China, pushed regional profits above pre-pandemic levels, helping to offset the impacts of any anti-LGBT boycott of its Bud Light product in the US. However, the world's largest brewer did miss on net profit expectations in the second quarter, with the figure coming in at just under $340 million. That's more than $1 billion less than the same period last year. But the stock is popping in the session because obviously comparing it to expectations, there has been an outperformance, and the Bud Light effect has not really impacted the overall performance in this quarter because of the China sales, that is. Let's talk about Infineon. That company has confirmed its outlook for the year after revenues came in slightly above forecasts in the third quarter at just over 4 billion euros, with the firm's automotive unit contributing more than half. The German chip maker says it sees full-year revenue of more than 16 billion euros. But today is not its day because this one is tanked 8%. Part of it could be because of the technology sell-off that we're seeing globally, and part of it, of course, because of the numbers not adding up to investor expectations. I want to also talk about Societe Generale. It has reported 900 million euros in group net income for the second quarter, above analyst expectations. The French bank confirmed its full-year guidance and launched a 450 million euro share buyback program, which is helping give the stock a facelift after its year-to-date performance has been rather muted at positive 3.3%. You would give it to Societe Generale, SocGen, this morning, that the stock is responding positively to earnings. Charlotte Reed joins us with more to break down those numbers. Charlotte, give us your own sense.
Yes, so Tabia, as you were mentioning, revenue is down 9%, but is better than expected in the second quarter, 6.3 billion euros. Net profit came at 900 million, so swung back to profit after, you remember, last year they posted a heavy loss after the disposal of their Russian business, Rosbank, last year, so they swung back to profit this year. Cost of risk was lower as well, down 23% to 12 basis points. And looking at the different parts of the business, French retail banking, that's where they had the biggest hit there, with revenue down 13%. This is due to a decrease in net interest margin. That is despite a good performance in Boursorama, the online banking that they've been pushing quite heavily. Also remember that in the French retail banking, they are merging their two network there, and shutting down agencies and cutting down some costs there on that front. Also said they had a good performance in private banking. Like looking at international retail banking, their revenue was up 6%. They mentioned in particular good performance in Italy and in ALD. Remember again here they completed the integration of LeasePlan in May, that they bought a couple of years ago for almost 5 billion euros, a car leasing business, and that's boosting their revenue, with ALD revenue up 18%. And they also, in that part of the business, they announced just a few weeks ago that they are disposing of 4 African country businesses there. They retain 13 business in Africa, but they're disposing of 4 of them as part of a wider strategy looking at some of their assets geographically. Now, their global banking and investor services, their revenue was down 7%. Of course, they talk about a less favorable market environment. Equities revenue down 6% and FIG down 18%. But of course, all eyes are on Societe Generale at the moment, because this is the first set of earnings under the new CEO, Slawomir Krupa, after 15 years under Frédéric Oudéa. So there's a bit of a wait-and-see situation at Societe Generale, giving him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. He announced a new executive team, a smaller, tighter executive team there. And also, one of his key challenges, of course, will be the share price of Societe Generale has very much been underperforming the other French banks. But they announced at the moment just that they're reconfirming their full-year targets. A bit of a wait-and-see until they announce a new strategy update mid-September. So we'll have to wait for those comments and where Slawomir Krupa wants to take the new bank. Also, he was at the helm of the investment bank when they de-risked that part of the business quite successfully for the past 2 years. So all eyes will be on this. But at the moment, we see a very positive reaction. One of the few stocks in the green on the CAC 40, with Societe Generale up 2% in Paris. Tanvir.
Thanks very much for that, Charlotte, for running up the earnings there for SocGen. IMG has reported second quarter net profits of 2.2 billion euros, topping expectations as higher interest rates helped boost revenues. Earnings per share for the quarter was 1.4 euros. The CFO of IMG told this show the firm is well positioned actually for future policy changes.
Yes, that's an interesting question. So we do see from the forward curve that rate hikes by the ECB and the Fed are likely to plateau from what we see. But having said that, with the way we manage interest rate within the bank, we have both short-term benefits and something which are locked in for the long-term benefit as well. So while I think the pace of increases in terms of net interest income is likely to slow, we see a good foundation for sustained NII performance going forward.
Nintendo says it sold 3.9 million Switch consoles in the quarter ending June, around 500,000 up on the year, with revenue for the quarter coming in at more than 460 billion yen. Arjun joins us now with more on these numbers. Arjun, we talked yesterday about Switch consoles. That's going to be a big feature of these results. How did the numbers stack up?
It was some quarter. There were huge concerns coming into this report. Have Nintendo Switch sales peak? Is Nintendo past its prime at this point in the current console cycle? And clearly, they're dismissing all those concerns with this earnings report for the June quarter.